Hello and welcome to Game Changer. I am Mariam Zia. In a historic move, US and Iran held and wrapped up the first round of talks, nuclear talks in Oman on Saturday. And this was their first high-level meeting between both the countries since 2018. The meeting in Oman was held indirectly with the messages exchanged via Omani Foreign Minister, which was a format preferred by Iran. Both sides described the meeting as being productive and confirmed that discussions will resume next week. The talks, of course, as we know, focused on Iran's nuclear program, while US has warned of possible military strikes if a general agreement is not reached between both the countries. Of course, we know that this development comes after President Trump's decision in 2018 to pull out of a nuclear agreement in 2015, which is known as a Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Now, Trump has promised a better deal, and in today's program, we will be talking about what it means for the region, of course, and because Trump is very vague in his description of what this better deal might entail, and at a time when there are tensions within Middle East and the wider region, what these crucial talks mean for both the countries and the region and beyond. We will be discussing all these dimensions in this program. We will also be exploring the challenges and implications if these nuclear talks fail, and what does it mean when we talk about the military threats of President Donald Trump. To discuss this and more, we are joined in the studios by former Ambassador Johar Salim, who is also President IRS. Welcome to the program. We are also joined by International Relations Analyst Dr. Bakir Malik. Welcome to the program. And we are joined online by Iranian journalist Mr. Farshid Bagherian. Welcome to the program. Mr. Johar Salim, let me start with you. Of course, when we look at these talks between both the countries, they are of significant importance, and both sides have described them as constructive. What's your take on these initial round of talks, keeping in mind that these were held indirectly between both the countries, with Oman being the mediator?
Yeah, there's a complex dynamic to these talks. As you have described before, this is after the 2015 JCPOA failed because of the US withdrawal from the accord. Otherwise, that was quite a comprehensive 160-page document which had taken 20 months to finalize, and which had taken care of the concerns of both the sides. But when President Trump came to power, he withdrew from the accord, and since then the two sides have been rather sort of engaged in hostile statements towards each other. Now, as you would recall, some weeks ago, President Trump had written a letter to the Iranian Supreme Leader, exactly, Ali Khamenei, and that was a letter in which he had given 2 months to Iran to either negotiate or face the sort of US and Israeli actions, which would have meant the strikes, airstrikes, or whatever military means they could have employed. So in the aftermath of that, I think this is a positive sign that these talks have begun, and the world has taken a sigh of relief, because the other option that the US was talking about would have plunged this region into a crisis. And already we know what is happening in the Middle East and Ukraine, and it's quite a, right now there's a lot of turbulence, and on top of that, if we had sort of a new confrontation, would not have been good for the region or the world economy, or the security and stability internationally. So in that way, it's a good sign.
But moving forward, Mr. Johar, what significant or key issues must be discussed? And in your opinion, how this time around the deal might be different? Because we know there is a lot of trust deficit because US pulled out of the earlier nuclear deal signed between US and of course other world powers. So keeping in mind all the context, and of course both countries agreed to meet again on April 19, but they are also going to be indirect talks. So what's going to be different this time around?
Well, it's the whole situation is different compared to 2015 when there was direct talks. EU was involved. It was a 5+1, the P5+1 format, and you know, like then it was like it was very clear that both sides at that point in time, there were not a threatening language from any side in particular. These talks are being held in a very different ambience, in sort of, you know, so to speak. In terms of the issues, it's very clear there are two issues. One is that the US wants Iran to roll back, deeply roll back its nuclear program and to cap the nuclear enrichment. That is what the Americans want. On the other hand, what the Iranians want is they want a lifting or withdrawal of the sanctions, a very, very tough sanction regime that they face, which has literally crippled Iran's economy in many ways, I would say. And they want an assurance that they could continue their civilian nuclear program. Now, these are not really easy objectives to reconcile, and especially given the fact that the Israelis, that is another dynamic involved. The Israelis are vocally opposed. They've already publicly stated their opposition to these talks because they think that any allowance given to Iran, in fact, it was the Israeli opposition to JCPOA which had resulted in Trump's withdrawal from that accord. So even now the Israelis are against these talks.
Exactly.
They want to use the other military means to ensure the sort of, you know, the rolling back or the destruction of Iran's nuclear program. On the other hand, what we've seen coming out from these talks, the US statement that these have been positive and constructive. Now this is a trust build. At this point in time, it's more about confidence building and sort of trust building and sort of, you know, and creating the right atmospherics, the right ambience for sort of, you know, some meaningful, some significant, some substantive dialogue. That's what we are seeing. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be, first of all, sort of, you know, very time consuming, but the format is a little strange as well because, you know, the two delegations are seated in two different rooms.
Yeah, let me bring in Mr. Farshid when we talk about the format that is very unconventional, like Mr. Johar also alluded to. What's your take on that? Because it was Iran that insisted on having indirect talks. What was the reasoning behind that? And also, of course, we know that these talks were held at the residence of Oman's foreign minister, which is 10 minutes drive from airport. What role does this choice of venue and its neutral setting play in reducing the tensions between both the countries?
Thank you for the invitation and my regards to other guests. Let me bring some clarification for direct or indirect meaning and talk. I believe that in the international relation terminology that if you have a talk or venue in Tehran or Washington, it would be direct. Otherwise, in any country, in any situation, with any other agent or player or actor, it would be indirect. Despite of this aforementioned details, the supreme leader is already issued an executive order that it would be the talk, and the permission for talk will be indirect. So Iran is managing somehow that the supreme leader executive order based off on this order. Secondly, Iran needs some guarantors. Iran needs some testimony for the talk, because, you know, when you, for example, the letter that the other guest mentioned, that the letter was delivered by Emirates, but Iran delivered the letter by Oman. This is the matter of trust. This is the matter of mediator. So Iran preferred talk as indirect in other countries, especially, for example, in the maybe Gulf countries. The second round would be in the Europe, and Iran is preventing to have any talk in Washington and Tehran just for the moment, because in the next, for the first step, let me tell you why Iran is preferring that. Because the first was not any debate, that was a talk, face-to-face talk. That's all. And it was constructive, definitely. Why? Because they didn't talk about any issue or any subject. Just they decided to prolonging the talks and to establish more talks and establish a team for that. Because I believe that there is no ready team in Iran and ready team in the United States for debate and negotiation on this huge amount of disputes between Iran and the United States. So for this reason, they are advancing gradually, millimeter by millimeter, because otherwise you cannot nominate the talks as constructive or comprehensive, because there is many unsolved problems between Iran and the United States. More than 46 years embargo, more than 46 years the Iranian investors and Iranian better to say money is frozen in the United States. So this is a very important thing. Second, Mr. Trump and his behavior, and I'm talking about the type of the behavior of Mr. Trump is not trying to smoothing the road for the others because he's jealous. So he's trying, if there would be any negotiation, there would be any relationship between Iran, it would be only exclusively for Iran and the United States, not for others, not for Europe and the others. But Iran finally get response to the region countries, region states, governments that to not escalate the situation. Iran is right now is trying to establish a peace process. This is very important,
Right.
because when you talk, there would be no war. Thank you.
Right, very important point raised by you, and we will be discussing about Europe's role and what cards Europe hold in all this later in the program. But Mr. Johar, when we look at the situation and the statement by Iranian Foreign Minister, he stated that the meeting got very close to reaching a framework. In your opinion, at this point in time, what kind of political or technical challenges both the countries might be facing to reach a deal?
I mean, it's a very complex situation. So there are lots and lots of challenges. There is the U.S. dynamic, the type of rollback that the U.S. wants. Iran.
That is a red line for Iran.
Yeah, to a certain extent, it would be, unless the Iranians change their position, their long-standing position on that. There's some internal dynamic in Iran as well. The Iranian president, who is a relative moderate, he had been sort of more interested in the dialogue. The supreme leader initially was not very keen, and in fact, in the beginning, when he received the letter by President Trump, he came up with a couple of strong statements.
Yes.
But it seems to me, and that's what the analysts think, that the Iranian president has prevailed in terms of starting the dialogue. Iran's economy is not doing well at all. These sanctions, like I said, they have taken their toll. And in the last 1 year, what we've seen, what has happened to Hezbollah, what has happened to Hamas, what have been happening to sort of, the strikes that Iran exchanged with Israel, all those things have in some ways weakened Iran's image and and some analysts would say Iran's position as well. So that is there. But at the same time, they have the red lines. On the other hand, what the U.S. Has to give in return, what the Iranians want is lifting of the sanctions. And the Israelis are very sensitive on that because they don't want Iran to get access to any money that they could then subsequently, in their viewpoint, use for the nuclear program or sort of any other infrastructure building. So what I see is when they say they have agreed on some framework, that framework could have been a framework of talks. You know, the talks, basically the framework for talks itself, which is a positive sign. I think, you see, whatever progress is made is positive, you know, between these two sides, because like it has been mentioned, there hasn't been any sort of, you know, like interaction or dialogue between these two countries for such a long time. And talking is always better than sort of, you know, like just making hostile statements. So in that way, I think it's, with all the complexities involved, with all the challenges involved, with all the sort of, you know, the daunting task that they have before them, despite all that, it's a good start, but it's not going to be easy in any way. There's a lot of possibilities of breakdown of these talks. The Israelis, as I've already mentioned, they are sort of not very keen that these talks should succeed, and sort of, you know, like they would be sort of, you know, discouraging the
Internal
US.
politics of both the countries also plays an important role in your opinion.
That would play a role as well. You know, then of course, sort of, you know, the pressure from Israel, and we know that President Trump has a very good personal rapport with the Israeli Prime Minister. That is there as well. So despite all these very many challenges, you know, the continuity of talks, I think, would be beneficial for both the countries, and not just for both the countries, but for the regional security and stability, and for the world itself, which is reeling from the fallout of the problems in Palestine, the Gaza issue, and also the war in Ukraine, and an impending economic crisis, because an impending trade war that we see, and sort of, you know, like, and the fears of recession. So in these very turbulent times, I think this could become a beacon of hope if sort of, you know, if they succeed. But like I said, it's not going to be easy. It would be sort of, you know, like the odds would be sort of, you know, more towards these talks, facing some roadblocks.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Johar Salim, for joining us in today's program and for your valuable input. Dr. Bakir, when we, of course, look at the situation and US withdrawing or pulling out from JCPOA, at that point in time, there was a cap on Iran for uranium enrichment up to 3.67% until 2030. But when we look at the reports coming out from the watchdogs, it states that the uranium enrichment levels have reached up to 60%. So how do you view this situation, and how crucial are these talks, not only for US, Iran, but other countries in the region, and of course EU as well?
Thank you so much, Mariam. As you're talking about, there's a uranium enrichment was at 3.67%. Technically speaking, when the uranium enrichment is above the 90%, it means the nuclear program is used for your military purpose. But if it is below the 3.67%, it means the nuclear program is for the civilian purpose. As we have seen that Iran is constantly claiming that our nuclear program is not for the military purpose, but actually for the civilian purpose. This deal was signed in 2015 between Iran, P5 and +1. That was basically to reduce the uranium enrich from 90% to like a 3.67%.
Until 2030.
Until 2030. And in return, they were lifted the economic sanction to the Iran that, okay, we will lift all these economic sanctions and will provide access to the international market. So the negotiation deal was done between the Iran, P5 and American country. In 2018, when Trump took the office, the first thing that he was done is basically suspended the deal. It was not because of the uranium, the deal was done between that 3.67%, but because that at that time, Trump administration claimed that why Iranian ballistic missile program was not included in this deal. That's why we suspended the deal.
And he called this a disastrous
Yeah, exactly. That's why we suspended the deal, and we will just impose economic sanction again to the Iran like this. And after that, when the deal was suspended, then Iran again started its nuclear program.
It started
and now the
back.
recent report of the nuclear watchdog, like the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, saying that it reached above 60%.
60%,
And
yes.
theoretically, 60% mean you can develop at least some nuclear weapon, or you can use this uranium in a different military nuclear weapon, like in a missile program or some other. So what America is concerning, that why not we should start a negotiation that this we can settle the deal between Iran and America. Both, remember, both America and Iran wanted to settle this deal through a negotiation, but there is a third actor that never wanted that this deal could be done between
Israel.
America and Israel. Yeah, that's why. And before that, we have seen that in a 2010.
But before you move on, I want to ask you that since you mentioned about this technological leap, in your opinion, how does it alters the negotiations between both the countries?
I don't think so. There may be some major shift between the US and America, because at that time, what Trump was trying to basically presenting his role as a global leader. If we have if we come to some negotiation, a deal with Iran, that means it will give the message to the rest of the world that America is playing as a global leader. And secondly, what America, at that time, America, what is demanding, that completely dismantle of the nuclear program like this. And this is also demanding by the Israel. But Israel on the other side is that the deal will not bring any fruit or will not bring any outcome to suspend the nuclear program or dismantle the Iranian nuclear program. The only option is that we need to military operation against the Iranian nuclear program. Technically speaking, it is a very difficult to measure the percentage of the uranium enrichment like that. Just only the IAEA or other nuclear watchdog can claim or predict that this uranium enriched exceed or reach 60%, 70%, 80%. But because the program that is started in Iran or other country, they are not sharing the exact figure or exact ratio, what kind of technical ratio, that how much nuclear enrichment process is basically completing. So at that time, even IAEA don't have any documents, or don't have any evidence, but they are predicting, they are claiming that after this 2018 to till now, it looks like the Iran is very close to build a nuclear bomb. And what they are saying, it is approximately 60%. For the nuclear bomb, uranium enriched must be above the 90%.
90%.
Like this.
Of course. Mr. Farshid, when we look at this situation with Trump's 2-month deadline for Iran to accept the deal, how does this timeline aligns with Iran's internal politics, including the hardliners' pressure and with upcoming elections cycle as well?
Deadline is already over, and we are stepping on the new step, new phase of the talks, because it's the unique on your own kind, because Iran and the United States is talking face to face, and this is the first time happened. During 2015 was a different subject, and this time is different because Mr. Trump is a new issue for the world. Mr. Trump has no patience like state. Mr. Trump is Mr. Trump. He is trying to change the United States. He is dealing with the taxation. He is dealing to bringing money from the all part of the world like pirates to the United States, because he wants to safeguard the United States after economic crisis, something about $36.36 trillion. So Mr. Trump has a very huge, a very big, a very deep duty to safeguarding the United States. War with Iran for Mr. Trump has no advantage, has no benefit, because United States needs terrorism, needs fear in the region. So Iran is right now is establishing the peace, because establishing peace is a very valuable issue, as not be and must not be taken as granted. So right now, the most important issue is not talking about the nuclear talk. Is the most important is the responses of the all states of the region, and the most important one is Europe and Israel itself. This is just some warming up. Nothing is negotiating. I believe that nothing is negotiation. Just talk, just face-to-face talk, and just they are evaluating each other. Not they are waiting each other. They are not talking, because if you want to talk about the nuclear talk, Iran will immediately stop all affairs, and Iran is not stopping, because this is the substantial issue for Iran, because the survival matter and issue for Iran is nuclear power, nothing else. So I believe that these talks is just only talk. But the patient of Mr. Trump is not like a state like Iran, because Iran is so skillful in prolonging the issues and subjects for many, many years. But Mr. Trump has no patience, because the upcoming election for the Congress and Senate must not give empower Mr. Trump to rule the world. So the time is overing for United States, not for Iran. But Iran economy, as my brother said, that Iran economy, not just Iran economy, the region economy is not performing to how can I explain, to step on and to keep on the war, because we are facing or passing some wars. They are running, like Gaza, like Ukraine, like Syria. So the region states, they are not willing to face or to leave any other war. So this is talk, and Iran is promoting this issue, this procedure, and Iran is so skillful. And I believe that the deadline for the 2 months is already over, and just now Iran, as United States, the axis of evil, I mean Iran, by means
Right.
of the United States, is this is important for the United States, nothing else. Yeah, thank you.
So that is very important, and to discuss more about it, we are joined online by Mr. Former Ambassador, Mr. G.R. Baloch. Welcome to the program. Mr. G.R. Baloch, we are discussing about the conclusion of, or the wrap-up of a first round of talks between US and Iran that, of course, took place in Oman this Saturday. When we look at different at the statements coming from both sides, they called it constructive and productive talks. But at the same time, there are threats by Mr. Trump that Israel will lead the military action if a deal is not reached. In your opinion, what kind of questions it raises about US strategy or foreign policy on this issue? If US or Israel decides to unilaterally attack Iran, and also do you think that Mr. Trump is going to be dragging US into the conflict, keeping in mind his promises during the election campaign and his anti-forever war narrative that he built?
Thank you, Mariam, for having me on your program. Basically, the dilemma of nuclear Iran or non-nuclear Iran is wrapped up into different layers. Layers of domestic politics of the parties involved, that is Iran, Israel, and US mainly. It is wrapped up in the regional politics, that is Iran, its balance of power with Saudi Arabia, with Gulf countries, with even Egypt in the Middle East. And for Trump, it is wrapped up into his, first of all, his push and pull from the extremist government led by, of Israel, led by Mr. Netanyahu, who has been actually working on this agenda to destroy Iranian nuclear facilities and installations. And what he wants to say is that finish it once for all, because he does not see any other option other than destroying nuclear facilities of Iran as a permanent solution. In fact, what I was reading, that perhaps he has actually said it, or he meant to say, was that it should be done what was done to Libya's nuclear program. So with Netanyahu,
2003, yeah.
Yes, 2003. With Netanyahu is still there in power, and for Netanyahu also, he is in a bind because he is involved in corruption. He has corruption charges against him. He has big charges of his failure to protect Israel. So he wants a war. Now he has destroyed and completely destroyed Gaza, killed more than 50,000 Palestinians. So Gaza is unlivable. So almost from his perspective, he has solved the Gaza problem. Now for him, the pending agenda is Iranian nuclear power. So I
Right,
think,
right, and
yeah.
of course, and Mr. Jia Baloch, also to include that CIA also warned of Israel's ambitions of regime change in Iran as well. Do you think that is going to be clashing with US goals or strategy in the Middle East, especially in regards to Iran?
See, this has been all these fantastic ideas that they keep floating. So regime change is not that easy for Iran. Iran is a bigger country. It has a solid uh, power base of the. One may disagree with the way the Ayatollah's regime is there, but they have a very broad base of support among the Iranians. So it's not that easy to foment any trouble like in Libya and just get rid of him, or even Saddam Hussein. There were two. So I don't think US and especially Trump wants to go into another misadventure like in Iraq in toppling Saddam Hussein or toppling Gaddafi. So I don't see this happening actually. Even I do not see that US should. It will not be in US interest to even let Israel go for attacking the nuclear facilities, because it will destabilize the entire region. It will destabilize the entire supply chain of the oil. It will destabilize the entire oil sector. So I think what will happen, I mean, I am kind of, although I am optimistic, but cautiously optimistic that perhaps US and Iran will reach somewhere in the middle. I think the bottom line would be that it will be JCPOA 2015 plus. It means he wants to add on some other things, like because that was only the nuclear capability of Iran. Now, what Trump wants it to have also the missile program of Iran to be included and discuss that how far they can go. Number two is its regional dynamics and its impact on the region, that how, especially if you decipher it, it means they have to recognize that they have to go back on their earlier commitment of the revolution, that they do not kind of, they are for the destruction of Israel. So perhaps
Right.
a way would be found, a way would be found. Yeah, yeah, Mariam, any question?
A way would be found. Mr. Jia Baloch, you mentioned about a way out, but what's your take on this, that Europe was not included in these discussions, and countries like Germany, France and UK are considering, like E3 are considering, and they have the ability to trigger snapback sanctions. What's your take on that? Do you think that is going to be complicating the situation and US leverage as well in these negotiations?
Yeah, I think it does like pose a very big challenge, because what is happening is that given the present polarization in the global politics of the Atlantic alliances, that is Europe and America, will there be a combined solution JCO on the pattern of JCPOA? No, I think what will Trump's would probably do, probably wants to do, is to do what he calls better deal. Better deal would be that perhaps the same agreement, 5+ agreement, would be improved upon, or even US can go do it all alone and show to the world that they don't need Europe, they don't need Germany, China, Russia, they don't need. I mean, he thinks that he's so powerful, he's so assertive that he can get a good deal, which he will then wave to the crowds that how different US under Trump is. So this is also expected, that perhaps he even go for a separate deal with Iran, or he can say have an understanding with Iran, and then ask other parties to come in and join. But I think at this point of time, my assessment is that perhaps Trump wants to do a separate deal, take us as a trophy, and of course show it to Netanyahu that he should back out from his plan of attacking Iran, and then show to the world that the only history of America has produced a leader, and his name is Trump. Yep.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. G.R. Baloch, for your valuable input and for joining us in today's discussion. Of course, we have to be looking in the coming days how the situation unfolds. But at this point in time, we know that Russia and China are opposing Western sanctions on Iran. How do you think this is going to be influencing U.S. Campaign of maximizing pressure on Iran?
I think Iran at that time is in a Russia and Chinese bloc. So what is basically trying that they are trying to expand their influence through this kind of diplomatic initiative that need to lift the sanction, economic sanction to the Iran like this. So if deal will be successful and there is some deal happen between US and China, then you will see that the Iran will be in an American bloc like this. So what is basically trying Iran, China and Russia want to keep Iran in their bloc like this. So that's where on the one side they are showing the support to the Iran that we are supporting at the international level, that the European or other country will lift the economic sanction to the China like this. So even both Russia and China will not want that their deal will done between US and China like this. If this will happen, it means there will be an open space for the America to achieve a strategic or political goal in the Middle East in this region like this. So these countries strategically or both politically they are trying to not to have a negotiation or a settlement.
But keeping in mind the red lines at this point in time that we are reading coming from Tehran, do you think that Iran can go beyond its legal obligations, keeping in mind the NPT as well, and of course the support from China and Russia?
Yeah, on one way you have seen that when Iran is the signatory of the NPT.
Yes.
But Iran is claiming that in this region Israel got the nuclear status without declaring that Israel has a nuclear power like this.
They neither declared nor denied. Yeah.
So in this region, Israel is a major threat to the Iran. So we keep our security or we bring a stability or strategic stability in this region. We need a nuclear power, a nuclear weapon like this. But because the economic sanction was imposed, and at that time even you have seen the turning point in the Iranian nuclear program was the 2010, when the Iran was faced the cyber attack against and it was saying that the cyber attack was conducted by the Israel and America, and the Stuxnet where it was basically composed by the Israeli and like this. And after that their nuclear program was so, you can say that was not absolutely but partially dismantled. Even at that time the Jawad Zarif, the foreign minister of the Iranian, on a Iranian state television, what he was saying that what America and Israel was trying from last 30 years, this small virus has done with our nuclear program. So the intensity of the cyber attack was so huge that ultimately Iran went for a nuclear deal, a nuclear negotiation with the P5 and like this. At that moment, I don't believe that there may be an military option against the Iranian nuclear program. So maybe there is an option. But Iran is also know that if we are not signed the negotiation or deal, cyber war is another option.
Right, but at the same time, you are referring to that there are no other options, but Israel, we know that is pushing for Libyan model. Do you think that is possible, keeping in mind the conflict within the region and the internal politics of Iran?
No, I don't think so this will be possible like this. If you compare the Iranian nuclear model or a Libyan nuclear model, it is a totally different. Libyan nuclear model was at the initial stage. And at this, if compared to the Iranian nuclear model, it is saying that it is a more advanced like this.
Yes.
And secondly, the Iranian nuclear installation is a deep buried. And Israel has no power to attack on their nuclear installation, but maybe America have the power like this. So that's why Israel is looking toward the America that provide this kind of military equipment or weapons to attack on the Iranian nuclear program. But to compare this a Libyan model, I think it is not possible like this, because both nuclear program, their structure, their technological advancement are like a totally different like this. So at that time, this kind of activity or a military practice is not possible.
But at the same time, when we look at the talks, do you think there is going to be a common ground in coming days between both the countries? Because we know that Iran is pushing for the talks to be exclusively on Iran's nuclear capabilities and nuclear program, while US is emphasizing on other aspects like, of course, axis of resistance and missile programs and other options as well. How do you think both countries are going to be negotiating, and how this is going to be different from 2015 agreement with Europe and other major powers not in the loop?
I think at that moment for the Iran, the only option is that at least not completely but partially to compromise on their Iranian ballistic missile program like this. For the nuclear program, I think Iran is agreed to dismantle its nuclear program, not completely but partially like this.
But at the same time, they are saying that scientists have the knowledge, so they can rebuild those technologies at any point in time.
At that time, for the Iranian, is the most important that to access the international market. So maybe they will compromise for the short period of time like this. And for the Trump, it's just to take the trophy as that, okay, at least for the even for the short period of time, why not we should have some agreement with the Iranian to stop the nuclear program or to stop the speed of the nuclear program of the Iranian. And for the Iranian, the most important thing to access the international market. I think for the both party, on the one side, what President Trump is trying to is basically when he was started his electoral campaign, we will not part of any conflict or like. So that's where he just trying to presented his personality, his leadership role that America is the global leader. America is the power that to settle the dispute or like this, because Iranian program is, you know, is a very very complicated. And it is not only challenging this region in a Middle East region, but overall all these major power is concerned about the Iranian nuclear program. So if deal has come between Iran and US, both country at least you can say build some image, soft image to rest of the world. And for the America, at least Trump can show that yes, I have a negotiation power. I have power that how this deal has been done between Iran and nuclear. Even before that, during the Biden administration or before the previous administration, even Iran was not agree or willing to have some negotiation like that.
Right.
So
finally, very briefly, Dr. Bakir, as we know that next round of talks are scheduled to be taking place on April 19 in Oman, what would be the broader implications for the regional security and for the global security if talks go ahead or there is failure in the talks?
Because you know at that time all global actor or global power is basically more concerned about this deal like this, because at this moment even this region is having this Israel and Palestine war, and it's already facing some destabilization or some like this war has basically disturbed the whole region of the safety and security and stability. So if the deal has not done between Iran and this America, maybe there was another front in this region. So this will not only destabilize this region, but overall maybe the oil prices will increase, like there may be uncertainty in the international market like this. So what is basically all these actors or major powers is trying to at least have some negotiation, a settlement between Iran and
USA.
it
will push the region further
for the stability and security
conflict.
And for the region, you know, it's not only the matter that Iran will develop the nuclear weapon, but if Iran will succeed, if Iran is develop a nuclear weapon, then it will also create a challenge for the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and they will also start like a similar nuclear program and like this. So at that moment was,
and we know that US is also negotiating civilian nuclear program with US at this point in time, but that is a debate for another program. Thank you very much, Dr. Bakir Malik, for joining us in today's program. That's all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.